if you want to become everything that you could be, then you look into the abyss itself, which is the darkest place that you can possibly contemplate. Well, you see it in The Lion King. You see it when Simba is being initiated by the baboon. I don't remember, Nafiki, I think his name is.
Who are you? The question is, who are you?
After Nella humiliates him because he's still a pathetic adolescent, he follows the baboon down underground, essentially, through a long tunnel. There's a lot of kind of scary music in the background, and he ends up contemplating himself in a dark pool, and then his father appears in the sky. And so that's one example of the reconstruction of the mythology of encountering your father in the abyss. And then by voluntarily doing that, then you call upon the strongest part of yourself to respond. And the strongest part of yourself is symbolized as the sleeping father nested inside the beast. And so the fundamental truth when you look into an abyss is that you don't see the abyss if you look long enough. It's like an answer to Nietzsche's conundrum. If you look long enough into an abyss, then the abyss looks into you. It's like, well, if you look long enough into an abyss, past when the abyss looks into you, you see who you could become in the form of the great ancestral figures nested inside the catastrophe of life. And then you can join them, so to speak. And I do think that we have that within us. You know, in the story of King Arthur and the Holy Grail, so the Holy Grail is one of two things. It's a cup that either held the wine that Christ drank at the Last Supper, or that was used to catch his blood when he was speared on the cross, either one. And when you go to look for the Holy Grail, you don't know where to look because you don't know where the Holy Grail is. And so King Arthur and his knights, who all sit at a round table because they're essentially equals, each go off to find the Holy Grail, and each of them enters the forest to begin the quest at the place that looks darkest to him. And that's another example of the same idea, is that it's another example of a dictum from Carl Jung, which he extracted from the alchemical literature, which was in sterquilinus invenitur, which means, roughly speaking, in filth it will be found, or more to the point, what you most need will be found where you least want to look. But you have to look purposefully. If it chases you, you're prey. If you confront it, then you're the thing that can transcend it. And that's an unbelievably optimistic message. Imagine someone's pursuing a goal, and some of the things they have to accomplish or confront on the way to that goal frighten them, and they start to avoid, and then they get more afraid, and of course their ability to pursue their goal or to accomplish their goal deteriorates because they're avoiding. If you're a psychotherapist or even a friend, let's say, you're going to encourage the person to face the challenges that are making them afraid, to face them voluntarily. And what happens as a consequence of that is that the person usually is able to overcome those fears and develop the necessary skills and to prevail. And that's partly because, not so much because they get less afraid, but because they get more skilled and more courageous. And so imagine that if you bite off a little more than you can chew, you get stronger as a consequence. And you do that in the gym, for example. When you go lift weights, you lift weights that are a little heavier all the time. And as a consequence, you develop yourself physically, and you turn into who you could be. You turn into more than you are. Okay, so if you face fears a little bit at a time, fears and challenges, and you do that voluntarily, then you become more than who you are. I think it's such a brilliant conceptualization that inside the darkest place is the heroic ancestor whose identity you could incorporate. Perfect.
Wait a minute. Who are you?